Hello, welcome everyone to This Week in Mormons, the Sisters Edition, with your hosts, Ariane Smith
and Tiffany Hales.
Here we are at the end of April.
The end of April. You know what? I was actually looking at the calendar, and I didn't even share this with you. I don't even know if you've realized this. It has been 5 years since we have been hosting this.
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding you. We started in May of 2017, and I know this because your little boy just almost is turning 4.
Oh, right.
And
we started this before he was born.
I
forgot about that.
In
my head, I was thinking like 3 or 4 years.
I know. Well, it just struck me because one of the first things that we talked about since we podcasted in May was Mother's Day. Oh, right. And we are kind of mixing it up for Mother's Day this year in my ward. And I was like, oh my gosh, how many years has it been?
How many Mother's Day have we picked apart the presents that the wards give us?
Like 4 or 5 years. So I'm sure when we podcast at the end of May, we will be picking apart.
In May, we'll fully digest what we got this year.
This is a preview. This is a preview of our podcast in May. True to form, we will be picking apart Mother's Day because that is one topic we have consistently had a lot to say on.
We're very opinionated.
Yes,
Mother's
we
Day
are.
And the presents from the ward.
Exactly.
Also Father's Day.
Very true.
Because a lot of times we're in charge of that.
Exactly.
But okay, so I have to tell you just my personal church-related news of the week.
Oh gosh.
I have been in mourning all week. I had been in mourning all week last week, mourning the loss of a stake conference over Zoom. Because our stake had stake conference this last weekend. And we've talked about it on here.
Yes, we have.
One of the things that I long to see stay forever that COVID brought us is the stake conference Zoom link. It was amazing. It was like one of the only things where I was like, this is the way it should be done. And I guess I naively just kind of assumed like, this could be an option forever.
Well, exactly. There are lots of people who maybe don't want to mix it up with 2,000 other people for stake conference.
And our ward is still doing a Zoom link every Sunday.
Oh, dang.
Now, granted, our ward has some pretty sick people right now with terminal illness that really do need the link, but they give it to everyone. So, I mean, we've had days where we've been traveling or our kids are sick where we've been able to use it. Anyway, so all week last week, I was lamenting because the Sunday before stake conference, they announced over the pulpit, it'll be at the stake center. There's not enough room for all of us in the stake center. So it will also be broadcast at this other building. And if there is a special circumstance where you need a link, you can talk to your bishop about it.
Oh, gosh.
And so all week I was like, why? We can't all fit in our stake center. So why not just open the stake center? It'll fill up because my stake is full of high achievers.
Oh, your stake is so special.
That stake center will fill up. That is not a concern in my stake. I get that in a smaller stake.
But no, definitely not in your stake. Those who want to see and be seen by those in leadership will show up an hour early to stake conference.
It'll be a full house. So why not send the link? Anyway, so I was mourning all week. I was kind of whiny. I was complaining.
You were murmuring.
I was murmuring. And guess what I got for my murmuring?
What did you get for your murmuring?
I got 2 out of my 4 children throwing up on Friday and Saturday for my murmuring. So guess who got the link to stake conference?
I think you planned this. What did you covertly do to make your children sick you could get the link to stake conference?
My kids have issues with the throw up, but I was just laughing. I was like, how ironic is this? I whine about it all week and I get vomit in my house.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. Yeah, folks out there are no children on this planet who vomit more than her kids. They have serious vomiting issues.
So we texted the bishop and he said, our kids are sick. So he sent us the link for the for the Saturday night, which is also the link for the Sunday. And I thought, they'll be better by Sunday, but no, on Sunday a different kid was growing up. So,
of course.
Which, I mean, I was going to use that link.
Sharing is caring.
I was going to use that Sunday link no matter what, even if the Friday night kid was feeling better. Anyway, so yes.
Okay, is anybody currently throwing up?
Everyone's good now. And I have to say, in the moment, I was like, you have to be careful what you wish for. This is not what I wanted. But looking back, now that we're out of the woods, I'm like, that was not that bad. Does that show you how desperate I am for a link to state conference?
It shows me two things. First of all, how desperate you are and how well, because your children vomit all the time, you handle and deal with the vomit.
That's
like
true.
You have it down to a science.
That's true. We are very good now about like keeping it off of floors, upholstered couches, etc.
Like I know no one who handles vomit better than you.
It's true. So that's my state conference story. Be careful what you wish for, people.
Okay. Well, I'm going to beef on Easter music.
Oh.
So I love the Easter songs.
Yeah.
You know, the glorious He is Risen, the Alleluia song.
Yes.
So I get to church on Easter Sunday, open the hymn book because, you know, we sing the opening hymn first. And this is what I'm greeted with. Let me just play a small snippet of what I was greeted with.
Okay. What is this?
What do you think it sounds like?
The Wild Bells song.
It sounds like the Wild.
It's also a strange song.
It sounds like the Wild Bells song. And you may recall in our January podcast, I was ripping on the Wild Bells song and why we have to sing Wild Bells.
Because you guys sing it every year.
We sing it every year.
And we never sing it in my ward.
So they started in with this song and I'm like, what the heck? This sounds like Wild Bells. It's called That Easter Morn. So technically it is an Easter song, but I think it's an Easter song pretending to be Wild Bells because it sounds remarkably like Wild Bells.
Okay, so your ward music person really has a thing for Wild Bells and songs that sound like Wild Bells. That is so strange, though. So I don't think you didn't sing like He is Risen.
We did sing.
You got one.
We did sing He is Risen for the closing song. Here is why we didn't get to sing the other really good Easter song, which is Christ the Lord is Risen today. Yes. The choir stole that.
Oh.
So because the choir stole that, we only got the peppy He is Risen, and then we had to sing the mournful Easter song.
Do we not have any other Easter songs?
We have O Savior Thou Who Wearest a Crown.
Oh.
But I don't even know what that one is.
You know what? We need some more Easter songs.
We need some more Easter songs. Anyway,
we don't have a lot. I'm looking at you.
I am beefing that we are saying a really depressing song on Easter, which sad. I know is kind of silly.
Well, no, though. I mean, really, if those were my choices, like, why not choose like
I don't know why the choir could have sung something else.
There's so many other songs that are more upbeat about the Savior. Not necessarily in the Easter category.
Not in the Easter category, but they are upbeat about the Savior and his resurrection. Just sing,
I know that my Redeemer lives. Like,
oh, that would be a great Easter song.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, we had to sing the depressing Easter song. Wow. Okay, staying on that same theme of music, because this is my intro tonight. My intro is all about the music tonight. So Friday night, my husband and I have a date night Friday night. Okay. And the professional bull riders were in town. So we got tickets to go watch the professional bull riders.
It's a very Idaho thing to do.
It is a very Idaho thing to do. We love a good rodeo. What can I say? Although this wasn't a rodeo, this was just the bullfighters. So, they do some bullfighting and then they have this intermission. So, basically people could go buy beer, although they were doing that all throughout. There were so many drunk people. Anyway, and so during the intermission, they are just playing music on the speaker system.
Okay.
And all of a sudden there is this snippet and there's no words. It's just the musical accompaniment. And I'm like, that is Shoulder to the Wheel.
No.
And they had 10 seconds of Shoulder to the Wheel. And as soon as I said to my husband, that is Shoulder to the Wheel, because when you hear a church hymn and you are not in a church place and it takes you a minute for your brain to like go.
That happens to me at Hobby Lobby.
Exactly. It takes you a minute for your brain to go, I know that, but it's so out of tune. It's so out of place. Mm-hmm. As soon as they finished the 10-second snippet of Shoulder to the Wheel, I got a 10-second snippet of popcorn popping on the apricot tree.
What?
I am kidding.
What is happening?
I kid you not. And then they were back to the rock and roll music. And it's funny because this is a nationally produced. They go around to cities.
They travel.
They travel like everywhere. This is not an Idaho thing. And so I was like, oh, who's running the audio tonight that's slipping in the Mormon songs?
That is so funny.
It was crazy. It was hilarious.
Dying to know like the background here, the story.
I'm dying to know the background too.
How can we find this out? Who's in charge?
I don't know. But it was just so funny because like I said, when you're in a setting that is not a church setting and you hear a very familiar church tune, you're like, This is messing with my brain. Messing with my brain.
That is funny. Who knew?
I know. Who knew? So...
All right. Well, should we cover some news stories?
Let's cover some news stories. Okay.
We're going geographically this week.
Oh, yes, we are.
We have stories from all over the country. We don't have a ton of international news this week. No. But we're going to start on the East Coast.
We are.
We're going to work our way west.
It's like we're on the Mormon Trail. Only we're going to go a little further than Salt Lake because we're going to make our way all the way to California. We are going to span both coasts tonight with our LDS news.
Yes, there's all kinds of fun little tidbits this week.
Exactly. So, starting on the East Coast, we are going to start with the lovely, thriving metropolis of Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. And our first story, Washington, D.C. related, is this broke over the weekend. On Saturday, former Republican senator from Utah, but he lived most of his life in D.C., so that's why we're considering a D.C. story. Orrin Hatch passed away. He was the longest-serving Republican senator in U.S. history and the longest-serving from Utah. So,
I did not realize that till I read this article.
I did not realize that either.
The longest in history. And it said 42 years.
Yes, he was elected in 1976. And when he was elected in 1976, he had never held a public office before. And what's kind of crazy is he graduated from law school in 1962. Mm-hmm. So basically 14 years after he graduates law school, he's sitting as a sitting senator in the United States Senate. I'm like, that's insane. That would never happen these days. Anyway, and so he's elected in 76. He retired in, I believe, what did they say?
Just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Was it 2019, 2018?
2018, he did not run again. Mm-hmm. And Mitt Romney took his seat. So, and he had just kind of this really remarkable career when he was in the Senate. He served with 7 presidents. 4 of them were Republican. 3 of them were Democrat. He headed 3 committees, and he passed nearly 800 pieces of legislation during his time in office, which is kind of crazy. He was a big defender of several things. First of all, he was a big defender of religious freedom, and he was asked in 2018, out of all of the pieces of legislation that you worked on, what are you most proud of? And he said the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And here's what's really interesting. He said in 2018, that would not pass today. And he said that has protected religious freedom like never before. It's something you think you wouldn't have to protect, but believe me, you have to protect it. So I thought that was really interesting that was his favorite one. The article also goes on to talk about he had lots of leadership. At one point in time, he was the president pro tem of the Senate, which put him 3rd in line for the presidency. And he considered running for an 8th term, but he had health issues. Failing eyesight in particular caused him to decide, I'm going to step back. I'm not going to run. And then, of course, Mitt Romney ran and won the seat. He was a workaholic. He really shaped the federal judiciary. I am punchy tonight. It's been a long day. I'm going on like 15 hours right now since I've been awake. It's been crazy. Anyway, he participated in a lot of Supreme Court appointments, but also federal judiciary appointments of a number of judges. And then probably one of my favorite things about this article, and this was a Deseret News article, was it talked about his relationship with Senator Ted Kennedy. Mm-hmm. Let's see, where is the Ted Kennedy stuff? Because the Ted Kennedy stuff is really good. So, it's a relationship that you would never, ever, ever see today. He and Ted Kennedy, of course, they were on the political spectrum, very different ends of the political spectrum. And Senator Hatch said we would fight like brothers, but they ended up being so close and working on a lot of legislation that required bipartisan support. And that's what you wouldn't see today, is you wouldn't see the most Democratic senator and the most conservative senator working together for bipartisan legislation. But he and Kennedy were so close. He spoke at Senator Kennedy's funeral in 2009. And he said, I am grateful for the late Senator Ted Kennedy, who taught me that the bonds of friendship are stronger than any partisan pull. And there are a lot of politicians who don't follow that these days, and that makes me grumpy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm of course, the President Biden had kind words to say about him. Many other political leaders had kind words to say about him and the things that he did serving as a senator. So, very sad for his family. I'm sure he will be greatly missed. But at 88 and considering everything he did, I would say he had a very good life.
Yeah. Long run there.
Long run.
I wonder how long it'll be before someone beats that record. I feel like it'll be a long time because I feel like these days they're coming for you.
Yeah.
Or you want out because it's just too much. So
no truer words have been said.
Anyway, okay. So we have one more Washington, D.C. story. This is about the open house.
Yes, it is in full swing now.
It is. Well, this week it goes in open to the public.
Yes.
But last week they opened it up to, dignitaries and media and special people. So this was a little
Did you get your invite in the mail?
I did not.
Oh, neither did I.
I really, really want to go though. Jeff, and by the way, Jeff, I know he'll talk about it a lot, but we want the full inside scoop because when we had the Meridian Temple open house here, what was it, 4 years ago? It was shortly after we started doing this. We gave you everything we knew, like from being ushers.
Oh, yeah.
Kids vomiting on the floor.
He talked a little bit about that last week, that they are not doing the tours. It's kind of a self-guided thing. So they don't need as much people.
I missed that.
But they still like to have people
I'm sure they have to have people guiding
directing
people.
And then they, of course, like to have, the punch and cookies.
People.
Okay.
Yes.
Punch and cookies so you can talk about the church.
We want to know, are you getting a job, Jeff?
Yeah, exactly. Because what assignment did you sign up for?
This is going to be months. This is going to be way longer than your average open house. So I'm sure at some point he's getting a job. We want to know what the job is.
Exactly.
So report back. Okay. So DC open house last week opened up to the dignitaries. The church newsroom released just a little write-up about several famous people that were there. One was Jeffrey Goldberg, who is the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. Said he welcomed the invitation to walk through the temple. He said, this is a quote from him, especially in today's America, it's so hugely important to try to understand your neighbor and try to understand things that seem superficially foreign or unlike what you're used to. And he said, if we all make that effort, our country will be a better place. It said they had about 4,300 guests go through in this past week.
In the VIP
tours. There was Wolf Blitzer.
Oh. Wolfie showed up.
Dana Bash, another journalist, and Sam Feist of CNN.
Oh.
He's like a big CNN guy.
Okay.
Anyway, and so they had some quotes from some of these people, and there's pictures. If you want to go see the pictures, it's kind of fun to look at, people that in pictures walking through the DC temple. Feist is CNN's Washington bureau chief.
Okay.
And he said the temple was breathtaking. I was taken back by the light, the brightness, and the brightness of the bridge entering the temple. So a lot of talk about how bright and light it was.
Very cool.
Could that be the spirit? Anyway, Paul Ryan, former Speaker of the House, was there. And he said that Ryan expressed delight at the marvelous concept of the church's doctrine of baptisms for one's deceased ancestors.
Very interesting.
They said Wolf Blitzer, who's Jewish, really appreciated the traditions and found the similarities between Judaism. And then they also had some LGBTQ advocacy people that were there that they had invited. They said Angela Huey, who's the co-founder and president of the Arizona LGBTQ advocacy group, One Community, went through the temple. And she said, it seems so fitting that when we're bringing LGBTQ inclusive organizations and faith-based organizations together for this very meaningful sacred journey to really get the opportunity to experience the DC temple with members of the church that have become good friends to us. She's just expressing this friendship and how it was good to come together. Sister Eubank was there. Sister Aburto, I'm sure other general authorities. But Sister Eubank said that as the world polarizes, as people don't have as much in common, this is an opportunity for us to find places we do have in common. So
very cool.
I don't know. It's always fun to read about. And that DC temple is just, such an opportunity to get some of these really notable people in there where you wouldn't in any other regional temple. And they all live there. So,
and that's exactly why they delayed the open house post-COVID, is because they wanted to use the temple as a public relations tool, which is great because people go by it and they can't go in it. And now they can for a period of time.
Well, and they quoted several of the journalists in the article that, said, I've driven by this for years.
Yeah.
And I think there are so many people that would not turn down an opportunity to go in there after driving by it for years and years. It's such a notable landmark. So very exciting for the DC temple.
All righty. Well, let's continue our journey westward. We're going to basically skip Middle America because not much happened this week in stories related to members of the Church of Jesus Christ in Middle America. We're going straight to Colorado, folks.
Oh, that's middle-ish.
So well, that depends on your perspective. For us here in the West, we think Colorado is kind of the middle. West. You ask anybody on the East Coast, and they're like, oh, that's totally the West. And I'm like, it depends on your perspective. Okay, so this story comes to us from Grand Junction, Colorado. About a year ago, there was a chapel in Grand Junction that burnt. It didn't burn completely to the ground, but there was significant damage to this chapel. It was determined that it was arson, and it was a juvenile girl who was subsequently convicted of the arson that damaged this, that caused all the damage to this temple, or to this building. Excuse me. I told you I am punchy.
There's not a temple burned down.
There's not a temple burned down. There's a meeting house. Anyway, so the meeting house has just kind of sat there for the last year, and the church has done nothing with the meeting house, which is kind of somewhat surprising.
Which is really surprising.
Because generally speaking, they, when a meeting house burns down, they make immediate plans to fix it.
Right. Well, and any kind of damage to property, they usually I think are on it.
Exactly. They are. So the city council, it must be in a suburb of Grand Junction. I think it's in a suburb called Fruita. Anyway, the city council of Fruita really wants the church to fix this building up. So they actually passed a resolution on a 4-2 vote asking the church, hey, will you come and repair this building? And it was kind of interesting. They had this really interesting discussion amongst themselves when they were voting on this, because some people viewed the building as, this is a great community asset. We are not endorsing one religion over the other. We are just asking the church to rebuild this community asset because people from our community worship there, and that building has a lot of meaning to them, and we would like to see that continue in our community. Others who voted against it were like, well, it feels like we're endorsing a religion by asking them to fix their building up.
Which I thought was really interesting, because I would think any city council anywhere would ask anyone to fix up a building if it's an eyesore.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what type of building it is.
Exactly. So anyway, so they had this resolution which basically said the Fruita City Council would like to voice support for the reconstruction of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints building in Fruita, Colorado, which unfortunately burned in April 2021. The building has been a great asset to the community since the 60s. So it's an older building, which may explain in part why the church doesn't want to fix it up. Many of our local citizens, whether part of the membership of the church or not, have benefited and have been impacted in a positive way from using the building. It's a great resource to our residents and our growing community. So when I read this, I was like, why isn't the church doing anything? They had 3 wards in that building. They immediately relocated the 3 wards. So I'm sure now there are buildings with 4 wards in them, because that's what happens when you have to do that. And it's like, why are they not fixing up this building? Well, I did a little research, and this is purely speculation. This is Tiffany 101. They are building a new temple in Grand Junction, and it's under construction, and they unveiled the new plans on April 16th. The new 7-acre site is located on the corner of Horizon Drive and 17th Street. And so it made me wonder, generally speaking, when they build a new temple, they like to do a meeting house next to the temple.
Right.
If maybe that's why they haven't rebuilt this building in Fruta, is because they know, hey, we're building a temple. We're going to build a meeting house next to the temple. This was a 1960s building. It was costing us a mint to maintain. Let's just get our new building built. But it kind of surprises me that they haven't taken any action on the old building to say, hey, we're going to put it on the market, sell it, etc. But kind of an interesting article that a city would say,
I know,
please rebuild your church for us.
I know. And they asked so nicely.
They really did.
I would think they'd be like, get your building, like get it together.
You got some, you got some stuff going on
but
here.
Maybe that's just how HOAs operate. Maybe cities are nicer. I don't know.
That's true. Okay. Should we migrate to Utah?
Yes.
Let's migrate to Utah.
We have a couple of Tabernacle Choir articles. We like a good Tabernacle Choir update. First one is the Tabernacle Choir was in a bit of a pickle because they canceled. They were supposed to do a European tour the year of COVID.
Yes, 2020. And, they had planned a big excursion to Europe.
We're going to do a big European excursion. Apparently, they had a cruise ship reserved as transportation, housing, and meals. For the choirs travel between venues.
Don't you think that is fascinating?
I was like, what?
Well, you think about it. What have they got? Like 300, 400 members of the choir, plus all the staff and everything. Plus they can bring their spouses if they want. They have to pay for their spouses, but they can bring their spouses. So where are you going to put all those people? That makes so much sense. Let's get a cruise ship.
And it does seem easier than coordinating all the like if you get this cruise ship and you say, we want you to stop here, here, and here.
Exactly.
Right?
And then you just bus them.
Yeah. So
from where they need to stop, and then you take them back to the cruise ship. So then you don't have
a brilliant plan.
You don't have your choir members packing up every night to move to a different hotel and having to schlep luggage here and there.
Yes. And trying to get all the rooms in the same hotel.
Exactly. No, I was really amazed with the brilliance of this plan.
Like, who thought of this?
I know.
Anyway.
And this was pre-Mike Levitt.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, that got canceled. And
but they still had this cruise ship.
Choir was left with this big bill for this cruise ship. So their new president, Mike Levitt, as you mentioned.
I have to say, I'm giving mad props to Mike Levitt. He has gone in and he has just gone full frontal assault on this choir in terms of we're modernizing it. This is our mission. This is what we're doing. This is exactly what he did when he was elected governor in Utah. He's treating the choir like a little mini state.
He's like, so let's get it together.
I just give him all sorts of mad props.
Anyway, it's very interesting. So he came up with this idea and working with the cruise line, it's Azamara Cruises.
Okay.
They will resell the choir's berths on the cruise ship this summer.
Yes.
Creating two separate like Nordic cruises.
Yes.
Because, got to break this up so people can afford it. And then 100% of the net proceeds from the new bookings will go to charity.
And they expect to raise like $1 million.
It said it could raise more than $1 million.
Yeah.
So starting price, like lowest price.
For the cheapest cabin, no window, 200 square feet.
Yes. $999 per guest. It says there are about 700 berths available on each cruise. There is one cruise starting like mid-June, does Stockholm, Sweden, Finland, Poland, and Germany. There's another one that does Copenhagen, Denmark, and Norway, Arendelle, Oslo, a bunch of those ones. So, and they're kind of back to back. One is like June 17th. The next one is June 24th. So,
well, and it sounds to me based on the fact that they've got what slots, what did they say for 700 or 800? 700, that this is one of those, it's a smaller ship clearly. And it's one of those cruise ships that's designed to go all up and down those rivers in Europe. And that's probably what they were going to do originally was go up and down the rivers in Europe and stop at these major cities that are all along these rivers and do their performances.
Yeah. So very cool. So they're going to donate the proceeds to CARE, the International Rescue Committee, and the American Red Cross.
Very cool.
So way to make lemonade out of lemons.
Again.
And all those poor choir members are like, darn.
We wanted to go on the cruise. No, seriously. I have looked at those river cruises because they're terribly expensive. So this is a value at $999.
Yeah, they are expensive.
They just look so cool.
They
like
do
if
look
I were
cool.
to do a cruise, that would be one of the, don't send me to the Caribbean. I don't want any of those cruises. I would want to do this cruise.
They do look very cool. Okay, so other choir news. Wanted. They are hiring.
Oh.
They would like a new managing director. So this person, it would be the managing director to oversee the organization as part of a new administrative structure. Now, this is separate from Mike Levitt. He's the president.
Yes.
So I'm guessing.
But his is an unpaid position.
Yes.
His is a calling.
This would be more like a day-to-day logistics manager type of thing.
And I'm guessing this is paid.
Yes, this is paid because there's a whole application, although I could not find the window of pay. That's what I was like super curious about. I think.
What do you pay?
I think the church, because my husband has applied for jobs for the church in the past. I don't think they give you a window of pay until you get very far along in the process.
Exactly.
Because I really wanted to know, like, what are we looking at here? Because I looked at the requirements and they want someone highly skilled.
Okay, so tell me the requirements. Now I'm really curious.
They want someone with like at least 15 years of like high managerial experience. Like, not like,
like you were running a big organization.
Corporate manager.
Okay.
Yes. And then there were a slew of other requirements, but
interesting.
They want someone with I think they even wanted a graduate degree in either management or like music related, but with a managerial.
So do you have to be able to sing on tune to have this job?
I do not think so.
Do you have to read music to have this job?
I also do not think so. I think they're leaning more towards the managerial, but they did say like experience with, musical groups would also be helpful. So
anyway. Very interesting. I wonder if Donny and Marie have any former managers they could, throw the choir's way.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, I was all hip on going, maybe that could be my in with the choir. Cause I do love me some tap cats and I can't sing. So that's never going to happen. But apparently neither is management.
No, but maybe they need an attorney.
How about a cruise director? I could so be their cruise director and plan all their activities.
You could write up all the contracts for their transfer of the cruise.
Exactly. Okay, so we have one last Utah story before we move further west, and this comes to us from none other than Brigham Young University. I'm sure you've heard of the Cougarettes.
Oh, yes.
Who hasn't heard of the Cougarettes? They are the dance team for the university. They like to come out and prance on the football field, and they perform at games, and they do shows and all of that. Okay. Have you watched I'm going to sidebar for a minute here. Have you watched the Netflix Cheer? The show Cheer on Netflix. And they always go to Nationals in Daytona.
Yes.
Well, Nationals in Daytona is not just about cheer. They also at Nationals in Daytona have, they not only have cheer, they have dance competition there and a couple of other different competitions there that are all part of this national competition. The ones for cheer, they're just doing cheer. Well, the Cougarettes went this year and they won first place in not one category, but two. They won first place in hip hop and first place in jazz.
Right. Which is not new for them.
It is not new for them.
Turns out they might be BYU's winningest team.
Yes, they won their 21
of all the teams.
Their 21st and their 22nd national title. It is very true. Of all the athletics that they have at BYU, the one that wins consistently on nationals is the Cougarettes.
Yes.
And some
they
people
are so good.
They really are.
Like if you ever watch I'm sure most people have seen their videos. They fly around like crazy they go viral.
They really do.
They're so good.
Well, and it's funny because some people are like, dancing, that's not really athletic. But you know what? If you have ever done that, like even just like the celebrities who go on Dancing with the Stars are like, I had no idea it was going to be this hard.
My girls have a constant battle over this in my house. I have a basketball player, soccer player, and a dancer.
Oh gosh.
And my basketball soccer player is constantly railing on my dancer about how it's not a sport. And me and my dancer are constantly fighting back that, yes, it is a sport. It's very athletic. She sweats. Her heart rate is like
Exactly. Exactly. Anyway, so, congratulations to the Cougarettes. I think that is amazing that they have had this. The article also talks about, obviously in 2020, the Nationals was canceled due to COVID. They did hold Nationals last year, but it was severely restricted. The parents couldn't come. They weren't performing in front of a live audience, and they get a lot of energy from performing in front of a live audience. And you can tell that if you've ever watched the Netflix show Cheer. And so this year it was back in full force. I guess last year they placed second in jazz, and that was their motivation. Just like the television show Cheer, we're going to win this year. We're coming back better, faster, stronger. Yes. So congratulations to the Cougarettes.
Very exciting.
Very exciting.
All right. Now we're going full West Coast. We have some stories.
We are going to none other than California. Okay.
Our first story is actually a write-up by Jenna Reese, but it's on a new television show.
Okay.
Limited series, so we lumped this in California. Hollywood.
It's Hollywood. That's why it gets the California treatment.
Hulu has a new series. It's set to come out this week on April 28th called Under the Banner of Heaven.
Now, this is based on a book that John Krakauer wrote.
A book in 2000. He wrote in 2003. I guess it was a bestseller. I have no memory of this. Did you ever hear about this book?
Oh, yes. So he wrote the Mount Everest book. He got super famous writing the book about all the deaths on Mount Everest. And this was his second book. I did not read the book, but I audio listened to the book. At that point in time, I was driving back and forth between Provo and Salt Lake on a daily basis. And so I did the audio version of the book, and I did not mind the book, but apparently I probably won't like the TV series, according to Jenna Reese. So do continue on.
Okay, if you didn't mind the book.
I didn't mind the book.
I had never heard of this book, but I was kind of a newlywed back then, so I was very oblivious. So the book was based on a true story of some 1984 murders of a 24-year-old girl named Brenda Lafferty and her 15-month-old daughter in Salt Lake City.
Yes.
So that is a true story. And she was apparently caught up with the guy she married, or I don't know if she had married him. You know the full story probably. Was she married to the guy?
Yeah.
Like a fundamentalist guy that was caught up in polygamy.
I honestly don't remember the storyline. It was so long ago.
His family and his brothers apparently got into kind of madness over their fundamentalism and
that is what I remember about the book is they were extremists. They were not. They may have started out at some point in time as mainstream members, but they became very extreme.
Right. So Jenna Reese must have gotten an early screener because she has watched the first 5 episodes.
Okay.
And she wrote this article based on that. And she says, faithful Mormons will not be happy with this, with the treatment of this. She said that I guess the book caused a big uproar. And in the years following the book's release, there did come out that there were historical errors and misleading generalizations about the church. She even said at the time the church issued multiple statements of protest or clarification, which I thought was really interesting because I don't think the church does that a lot.
I don't remember that at all.
So it must have been a big deal at the time, but I don't remember. Anyway, she said in the book, the underlying theme was kind of that all religion is profoundly illogical and dangerous, often dangerous. And she said that theme kind of hangs true in this adaptation of it for television. Now, she did say there's a new character for the show that was not in the book. They introduced this fictional character named Detective Pyrie, and that is who Andrew Garfield plays.
Okay.
Didn't mention this. This has some big people in it. It's got Andrew Garfield. So I think that, it's going to get a lot of, I think it's going to get a lot of views.
It's going to get some traction.
So anyway, so he is a made up character and he's the detective investigating this. And then also she says that throughout the series, he is a faithful member of the church. And he has some type of a faith crisis as he's experiencing.
Interesting take on this story. Hollywood.
And if you've watched the preview,
I have not watched the preview, but I have seen a picture.
The preview is alarming. I saw it a few weeks ago when it first started hitting the internet, and it's one of those previews that makes you very uncomfortable if you're a faithful LDS member. There, it starts out with him saying a prayer. Like the very first line you hear in the preview is him saying a prayer that is clearly
a Mormon prayer,
which is what perked my ears because I hadn't even heard of it. This preview popped up. I was on something and I was like, wait, what? And then there's a scene where they show them in full temple clothing. So that's also like,
well, and that's what I saw on the internet is I saw pictures on the internet with the preview that showed the woman in full temple clothing, and that was an immediate turn off to me. So I was like, I'm not even gonna look at the preview on this.
That always gives me the heebie-jeebies.
I know.
So anyway, Jan Reese did say one of the creators of the show, his name is Dustin Lance Black, actually grew up Mormon.
Yes. He is gay and lives in San Francisco.
Oh, you've heard.
And he won an Academy Award for
for Milk.
For Milk.
Yes. That says that in the article. So it said that he really did try to make an effort to talk to different church members and different church leaders about any concerns as they were making this show, like what would you like to see? And I think his takeaway from that was that they really needed to draw a clear line between the mainstream LDS church and fundamentalists LDS, which maybe the book hadn't done so much. And she did give him credit that See,
I don't remember that from the book.
You don't remember that?
I don't, and maybe I don't remember that from the book because I'm reading the book as an active member. And so I know. Yeah. And so perhaps if I didn't have that in my background, I would have lumped all Mormons under this crazy category because I'm reading the book. And for me, it's like, these are a bunch of really wacky people.
Right. Right away that they're not.
I'm like, well, they don't belong to the same religion I do.
So anyway, she did say that the series, like she could tell, went to great lengths to make a very clear divide.
Okay.
And so she appreciated that. Anyway, but she did say that like she still felt like her overall impression after viewing the series was just kind of this hit on religion in general.
Interesting.
Like religion kind of being full of like power hungry people and all that. So anyway, that was her take on it. She did say the production was amazing and like great performances. Okay. So I do think it's going to get a lot of traction.
It probably will.
So that will be interesting. If you want to watch, gird your loins. You've been warned by Jana Reese.
Well, and I want to thank Jana. Thank you for your service. So now I don't have to watch it.
It's going to be intense.
Okay. So our next California story, I don't know how much you were aware of this. I was super following this story about 20 years ago.
I was aware I was at BYU.
Oh, you were even better.
Was all we talked about at BYU when I was there 20 years ago.
So I am Generation X, totally admit it. Grew up on Real World New York, the original Real World. Loved the Real World series. In the year 2000, Real World went to the city of New Orleans. Not only did they go to the city of New Orleans, they thought, what would be better than to take a Mormon with us to the city of New Orleans? So they recruited at BYU and they found this girl named Julie Stoffer. Maybe it's Stoffer. I'm not entirely sure. I don't recall how her last. Stoffer. Okay. Anyway, so she appeared on the Real World New Orleans series, and she was young. She was 20 years old. She was trying to figure out herself, her religion. She came from a very religious family, and she's just like a typical 20-year-old in the real world, just trying to sort out, do I believe what my parents believe or do I believe something different, sort of a thing. So she ended up getting kicked out of BYU because although she never slept with a boy or engaged in any of that on the show, because she was living in a house with members of the opposite sex to whom she was not married.
Yes.
BYU said
this was all anybody talked about on BYU campus for like 6 months. Every editorial section of the Daily Universe, everyone around campus, it was like, should she be kicked out? Shouldn't she? People had very strong feelings.
Exactly. So she tried really hard after the show was over with. She went totally Mormon, tried to get back into BYU. She never did get back into BYU, and she ended up going to the University of Connecticut. She does end up meeting a returned missionary, and she marries him. And then they kind of simultaneously on their own paths start going through a faith crisis. And so this particular article that I'm referencing is a piece that was in the Salt Lake Tribune. And the reason that this has resurfaced is what MTV has done is they have gone back to some of these casts, some of these late 1990s casts and early 2000s casts, and they have done what's called a homecoming show where they put them all back together again and say, what's happened in your life in the last 20 years? And they did one for New Orleans and she agreed to appear on it. And obviously she had to explain because Mormonism was such a strong storyline in her first go round. She had to explain that she was no longer Mormon because she had not really talked about this publicly.
No, but I think people kind of
it was suspected.
I think like I remember reading an article about her several years ago and being pretty sure she wasn't in the church anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this article just, asks her about her experience on the MTV show, her experience kind of, deciding to leave Mormonism. She says, well, I'm, really happy in my new life. She's married to an ophthalmologist. They live in California with 4 kids, hence this being lumped into the California thing. I'm going to have to admit, I'm kind of bummed because and again, I realize everyone is on their own faith journey and everybody gets to have their own faith journey and they get to decide, what they're going to believe and what they're not going to believe. But she was, I think she was so typical of kind of the 20-year-old girl at that age that, I wish she had, her faith journey had not taken her where it was, but
I have to say, I was not surprised at all. Not like I'm not trying to sound judgy, but I was just not surprised because I really thought after what happened at BYU that she would have left right away. I was actually surprised to read that she stayed in so long. She
tried to stay,
because she got so much hate.
She really did.
So much hate from people at BYU that were so upset about her
and that I did not appreciate because I thought it was unjustified.
Awful, mean, just horrible comments, calling her names, and they would write this in letters to the editor, and I heard that she would get harassed on campus, and I never saw her on campus. But I would have thought that would have been what drove her out, but it wasn't.
No,
she actually stayed faithful for many years after that. So.
She did, and I do remember that, and I thought that was really her treatment.
Yeah,
and the way people judged her on that was really uncalled for.
Right, and I mean, not even BYU. I mean, BYU do what you do. Yeah, but just the people at BYU,
exactly.
To be so mean to her was hard to see. It was also very hard to watch her on the show. I mean, it's just. I mean, I know she said she doesn't regret it, but I'm like, oh, I am so glad nobody put a camera on me at 20 years old.
I know. It's, again, props for being brave or stupid to do it. I don't know.
I know.
Okay, so my last California story. Okay. This is one of my favorite stories of the week. I love Jennifer Garner. I think she's an incredible actress. She's just, I don't think there could probably be a nicer person on the planet unless we were talking about Dolly Parton.
She seems very nice.
She's very nice.
One of the few celebrities whose Instagram I follow because she's just so fun.
Exactly. So she has had the biggest, hugest childhood crush on Donny Osmond. Just loves Donny Osmond. So she is turning 50 this year. And in the days leading up to her birthday, she went out to lunch or breakfast. I'm not sure which. They're in a restaurant with a friend, and the friend is filming her. And the friend is filming her while Jennifer is opening up a video message on her phone. And the video message on her phone is from Donny Osmond saying, "Hey, Jennifer, wishing you happy birthday." And she is just so excited about this video message. As she is watching this video message, Donny Osmond comes up behind her, and all of a sudden she's hearing Donny Osmond in stereo sound, and she sees him, and she totally fangirl geeks out. She's just like, ah! So he shows up, and he has this cake that says 13 going on 50. He sits down. He spends an hour and a half with her. They sing a couple songs together. He just is wishing her a happy birthday. And it is just, she posted a video on TikTok. He posted videos about it as well. This is what she had to say. He took an hour and a half of his day to sit with me, sing my favorites, and to give me a master class on how to be a class act. Mm-hmm. And I thought, how cool is that? And he on his own TikTok said, surprising fans is one of my favorite things to do. So when I had the opportunity to surprise the lovely Jennifer Garner for her 50th birthday, I was overjoyed. So I just thought, how
that's cute.
That's just sweet.
We love a good Donny Osmond story.
We do. In fact, Donny's been in the media a lot lately because
I know. I feel like every month we have a Donny story.
There was a picture floating around on Facebook. Donny, so some people that used to live in my ward here in Eagle moved to Provo, and they literally live like 2 houses down from Donny and Debbie. So they're in the same ward. And Donny, his calling is teaching youth Sunday school, specifically like the 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And so he showed up on the Sunday to teach about the coat of many colors.
Oh, no way.
With his coat of many colors. And so there's this whole group picture of him wearing the coat of many colors and all the teenagers from the Sunday school class. And I think he posted it on his own feed, like no better way to teach about the coat of many colors than wearing it to church.
Oh, that's so funny.
So, okay, shall we do that one, or
I think we're running out of time. Let's skip that one.
All right. I do need to give a quick shout out to one last story.
Okay.
Jeff talked about this last week because actually a regular who listens to the podcast, who's a friend of mine, sent me a link to this story, and he said, do this on the next TWIM. And I said, I will. And then Jeff stole it. And he said, I don't think Jeff adequately addressed this story. I think you need to. So this is a shout out to David, who happens to be a counselor in my bishopric.
Oh.
Anyway, so David and his wife Tracy, at one point in time for a job assignment that David had, lived in China. And while they were in China, they met this couple there, O.T. Benson and Julie Benson, and they became really good friends with the Bensons. And the Bensons were just amazing when they lived in China. And then everybody finished their assignments in China and went on their own way. You may recall from last week, Jeff was talking about how Brother Benson and Sister Benson recently accepted a work assignment to Krakow, Poland.
Yes.
And when they first accepted that assignment, everybody was like, that's a really unstable part of the country. And they have 8 kids. They're like, why are you taking your 8 kids to Poland? That's nuts. Mm-hmm. So they prayed about it. They felt good about it. They arrive in Poland, and all of a sudden the war in Ukraine breaks out. And they become their house becomes this place of refuge. And they have all of these stories. In fact, you can go on his Facebook account. His Facebook is OT, the letter O, the letter T, Benson, Benson. And you can go back for the last, month to 6 weeks since the war in Ukraine started. And you can read all about the different families that they've helped and how they've helped those families. Mm-hmm. They call it the Ukraine Starfish Rescue, in reference to, somebody walking along the beach and all the starfish are on the beach, and you throw them back into the ocean and you feel like, I'm not making a dent. Well, you are for the starfish you threw back in the ocean.
Right. And
that's how they feel about it. And so I was reading the stories. They're heart-wrenching, and it's just amazing to see what these people are doing. So,
so follow up. We can go on Facebook.
You can go on Facebook,
get more information.
And you can just search O.T. Benson on Facebook, and his page is public, and so you can read all the stories of everything that they've been doing, and it's pretty amazing.
Oh, that is cool.
So,
oh my gosh, the other thing we forgot to talk about? Did you see the thing Jeff posted on the Facebook page that was the anatomy picture?
Oh gosh,
from the BYU Idaho
yes.
textbook. Okay, so this is really interesting. I hopped on earlier and I was reading the comments.
Okay.
So what it is Jeff posted this on the Facebook page. Somebody submitted it who's at BYUI, and it was from an anatomy class, and it's a textbook picture drawing
of a male and a female.
The male and the female body, only there are like holes, a spot covering private parts.
All private parts have been
covered by a little spot.
Have been covered.
So anyway, I was like, this can't be real. And I was like cracking jokes to my husband. I was like, next time you go to the doctor, if there's a BYU diploma on the wall, you might like be a little scared. But anyways, but I was reading the comments because I was like, how is this? Is this really real? There's no way this is happening, right? And it was interesting. Some people in the comments were saying that this is for the online pathways
I
course,
saw that.
because in different countries, they have different regulations. And that perhaps for some reason, maybe the pathways course picture ended up in the regular BYUI, like maybe that professor accidentally grabbed that or something, because there were other people on there that said, you know, I'd done an anatomy class at BYUI and this is not what they showed us. Anyway, so all is not as it seems, thankfully. But if you want a good, like, entertaining comment section, go hop on the Facebook page and look at that.
Oh, I can't believe I missed the comments on that. You know, I love a good Facebook comment.
You do.
I perform a service. I save you generally from having to go down the rabbit hole.
Because I do not usually like a good Facebook comment section, depending on the topic.
Okay.
I can only handle certain degrees.
All right. Well, we need to get to one of our favorite segments, Mormons behaving badly.
Yes. And we have nothing new, but we have updates.
I have in the last 30 days, we have not been able to locate a story of a Mormon behaving badly. It hasn't run across our desk, but I do have updates. So first update, you may recall I gave Ammon Bundy a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I have an update on Mr. Ammon Bundy. So last year, he was convicted of trespassing, and he was sentenced to 5 days in jail, but those 5 days were suspended if he did 40 hours of community service. Pretty standard sentence. He was told at that time, community service means doing something for the community. It does not mean your gubernatorial campaign. So what does he proceed to do? Submits 1,900 hours of community service for his gubernatorial campaign.
Yes, because if you do recall, he's running for governor.
He's running for governor here in Idaho.
State of Idaho.
So the prosecutor was less than amused with his 1,900 hours of gubernatorial campaigning service. So she files a motion for a contempt hearing. And so he had a contempt hearing at the first part of April. And the judge ran him up one side of the flagpole and down the other and said, Mr. Bundy, you were told by this court that you're working on your own campaign does not constitute community service. I expected you to do something for the community, and you did not. So not only are you going to serve your original 5 days in jail, I'm going to find you in contempt of court, and you're going to serve another 5 more days in jail. Because 5 days in jail is the maximum for contempt of court that's allowed per contempt charge here in Idaho. So they probably took him into custody. He spent 10 days in jail. He was released on Easter. You could say he was risen.
Back out on the streets, campaign.
And then we will do a quick Laurie Vallo update. Laurie Vallo has been sitting in the crazy farm, the funny farm. However, the judge recently declared that she is competent now to stand trial and she did not enter a not guilty plea. She remained silent. So the judge entered a not guilty plea on her behalf. She refused to waive her right to speedy trial. So her trial is set in October, but his trial is set for January, and they're supposed to be combined trials. So I'm not exactly
confused about that.
Sure how somebody somewhere is going to have to work that out. I don't know how that's going to work out. But
we're finally getting a trial.
In any event, we're going to get a trial. And don't worry, as the twin sisters, we will keep you updated with everything you need to know but don't want to read.
As will Dateline.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can compete with the Keith Morrison, although I will have more brevity than the Keith Morrison.
Yes. Okay, speaking of Dateline, that's it, right? We got to move on to our favorite things. My favorite thing is Dateline adjacent.
Oh.
So.
Okay, now I have to give a disclaimer here. I have had such a busy, crazy couple of days. I haven't even thought of a favorite thing. So I told Ariane, I am punting favorite things to you tonight. You have to do a favorite thing for me.
I get two.
You get two.
It's good because I have two. I have a lot of favorite things lately. So, okay. So have you watched The Thing About Pam? This show?
I have watched The Thing About Pam. I love The Thing About Pam.
So for those who do not know, it was a Dateline that they did, the Dateline with Keith Morrison.
Yes.
They did this true crime story about this woman named Pam, and there was a murder.
And they also put it on a Dateline podcast.
And then they put it on a podcast, and it was wildly popular, and I never listened to it. It's been sitting in my queue.
Yeah, I've never listened to it either. It
2 years.
Sitting in my queue too.
So I didn't know.
Are we like the same person?
So I knew nothing about this story, and then they released this show based on the podcast and the Dateline episode. So I went into it knowing nothing, and we binged it all last week. It was so unique the way they did it. It was super campy.
And Renee Zellweger stars as Pam, and she did not gain weight for this role. They put her in a fat suit, but man, the makeup and the costuming on this was amazing.
And her acting, I was like,
oh, it was good.
Oh my gosh, she plays the most annoying person, and she's really good at it.
Oh, it was really good. And they aired it. They aired a new episode every week for 6 weeks because it was a 6-part series. But if you have the Peacock app, you can watch it on the Peacock app. And so if you missed it when they aired it.
Yeah. So anyway, we were obsessed. It was fascinating, and it was really interesting the way they did it. I feel like they walked a very fine line between this is a murder story, but they kind of played into the quirky weirdness of the actual people that were involved, and they made it really campy.
They did.
And I don't know how they got away with it, but they did.
It was good.
And as I was watching it the whole time, I was like, are they going to try to do this with Laurie Vallo? Because they're obsessed with that story. But I'm like, I don't think you could do this with that story.
I think Pam had more character to her that they could do that.
Too creepy.
Laurie Vallo is too dark.
Too creepy.
Pam's story doesn't seem dark. Okay, well, that is too funny. We actually technically share a favorite thing.
Well, there you go.
Okay, your next favorite thing.
It was very good. My next favorite thing is the pretzel at Sonic.
Sonic has a pretzel?
Okay, I didn't know this either.
What?
Some Instagrammer posted about it. Sonic has a pretzel, and it is delicious. And it is the only thing I like on the Sonic menu. Because I do not care for Sonic. I don't even like their drinks because I'm a drink snob now, and we have all these fancy Utah drink people. So now I don't even like a Sonic drink. I have to get my drink at the fancy soda places.
Oh gosh, I can't with you.
So I don't like Sonic at all. There's nothing on the menu I want.
Except apparently the pretzel.
There's a pretzel that I will drive to Sonic for.
Okay.
It's like a soft pretzel like you get at the mall.
A description of this pretzel.
It's a soft, buttery, twisted pretzel like you get at the mall.
Okay. So how big is the pretzel?
It's
is it as big as the pretzels you get at the mall?
No, it's smaller than the pretzel you get at the mall. And it's not a pretzel shape. It's like a twist pretzel, like in a stick and a twist.
Okay.
It's soft, buttery, salty, gooey. Delicious.
Do you get a sauce to dip it in?
Yes, it comes with cheese sauce, but I don't even dip it. It's just good by itself.
Oh, really?
I never in a million years.
Okay, so what's a pretzel going to set me back?
Oh, it's like a couple bucks.
Well, that's not bad.
Maybe $2.50. Cheaper than mall pretzel.
Okay, well, I, who do not mind the Sonic drinks, love a good Route 44. Just had one on Saturday. I may have to go get a Route 44 and hook myself up with a pretzel
next time you go to Sonic.
I have no words.
Who knew?
Who knew?
I never would have known.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I think that probably wraps it up for us tonight, and it's probably a good thing because I'm so punchy that if we went on much longer, we'd probably lose listeners.
She needs to go to bed.
I so need to go to bed.
She's been in excessive meetings for the past 24 hours.
Well, no, for the past 48 hours. Seriously, I can't get a break. Anyway. So, TWIM listeners, TWIM Nation, thank you very, very much for joining us tonight. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email Jeff at contact@thisweekinmormons.com. You can also find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on the Instagram. And of course, if you want to be a Patreon subscriber, I told you I'm punchy. If you would like to be a Patreon subscriber, $3 a month helps us keep the lights on, and we would really appreciate it.
This is fun. I'm enjoying this.
I'm sure you are.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Good night.